We are on page 16. It is the Shiur navigating the Siddur, the prayer book, Shiur 11, I believe. I just want to compliment and add to the bracha of Malbish Arumim that the Almighty we bless the Almighty for clothing the naked, who clothes the naked. We spoke about it last week. I just want to add one dimension to it. On the one hand, beged, the word beged in Hebrew is called garment. Beged comes from the word boged, to rebel. In fact, the reason why we have garments in the first place is because of a particular type of rebellion from Adam and Eve. So really, clothing is a garment or a symbol of shame. And here we are, we bless the Almighty for this very symbol of shame, a reminder of premortal sin. Not a great thing to wake up in the morning to every day, I would perhaps suggest. But the truth is, on the most minimal level, we thank the Almighty for protecting us, for supplying us with protection. Yaakov Avinu, we read in the parasha that the Yaakov Avinu asked from the Almighty, Beged lilbosh velechem le'echol, garments to wear and bread to eat. Why does Yaakov Avinu say garments to wear and bread to eat? Of course, garments are to wear and bread is to eat. You don't take a garment to the laundry and leave it there hanging there. The rule is if it's there for 30 days, you lost it, finished. So you don't have garments just to hang up, you have garments to wear. You have bread to eat, you don't have bread sitting there in the cupboard. Yaakov Avinu was asking from Hashem not only the concept of the barest minimum. He wasn't asking for luxuries, he wasn't asking for a Lexus, he wasn't asking for a Maserati. He was asking for clothes and garments, but he was also asking for health to be able to wear. Someone who's sick, he's not wearing no garments. He's sitting in pajamas and wearing those hospital gowns. Those hospital gowns are terrible. I don't suggest it to anyone. Opening in the back. Who makes a thing opening in the back? It's crazy. You have to wear two. You have to wear one on this side. Anyway, so the health to be able to do, and also to eat. Many people can't eat different things because of this, because of that. We ask the Almighty not only to give us the bread, but the health to be able to enjoy it. So in the first instance, we are acknowledging the Almighty's blessing that He's given us the ability to, first of all, that He supplies us with our needs, and secondly, that we have the health to be able to get out of bed and to be able to wear our clothes, etc. But on a deeper level, we find that the Kohanim, their garments are called garments of lechavod uletifaret, for glory and for beauty, which seems to indicate now all of a sudden there is something, a dimension to clothing that is indeed very great. And the truth is the Kohanim, and by extension us, have taken the symbol of shame and have turned it into a symbol of beauty and glory. And that is to the Kohanim had particular type of garments that they come into the holy sanctuary, and we have clothing by which we honor the mitzvot that we do when we wear Shabbat, or we dress nicely for tefillah, respect and prayers and etc. So we take that garment that was a symbol of shame and we turn it into a symbol of glory, and we thank the Almighty for allowing us to rectify premortal sin. On a deeper level, the concept of garment is what's called levush. Levush is something that is abstract. It's something that is removed from us. There are two types of energies which we will, divine flow and divine energies, which we will cover in further down, in the other brachot further down. But I'm just going to say very briefly, because it's necessary to know it now and also later on. There are two types of light. There's a light or divine energy called Or HaMemaleh Kol Almin, the Or HaSovev Kol Almin. There's a light that encloses itself within the garment, and there's a light that is too abstract or too far removed that can be clothed in the garment. The garment is just too, or the vessel, or the body. They're all the same names. The concept of body, vessel, or vessel is the same thing. It's a light that cannot be garbed, cannot be clothed. It is too beyond. It is far beyond and much greater than the vessel that contains it. Like taking boiling lead and pouring it into a fine crystal glass, you'll shatter the glass. It's not able to handle that level of temperature, that level of heat. So there is a light that animates us. There's a light that encloses the body, but there's also a light that is beyond the body. But that is also has an association with the body or with any vessel or with the world, etc. It's a light that is existent and present, but not intimately related to the vessel. And thus we don't feel it like we feel the neshama that animates the body, the energy that animates the body, or the glory of God that animates the world. There are much higher lights than that and that we cannot appreciate. And that is symbolized by garments. Because garments are external. There's different garments. There's malbusha karov, levusha karov, levusha rahok. There's levusha, there's a closer garment, and there's a further away garment. The closer garment are clothes. They are beyond they're not. It's not like bread where you eat and becomes a part of you. They are beyond us, but they are intimately connected to us because they are on top of us. They're more relative to the body. And then there's a light that's greater, like a house, like a building, like a sukkah, where it encompasses your whole being, but it's more of a distance. So there are different divine levels of light, different divine lights, and they are a symbol. They're symbolized by garments. So in a way, what we're saying to Hashem, and we'll see this a little bit later, and when we're speaking about the different types of garments that we do wear, we're saying to the Almighty that we're thanking the Almighty for that concept of garment, that through the ability to rectify the sin, we have now an association with garments which till now we weren't able to draw it down. We weren't able to have any relationship with garments whatsoever. So on the one hand is a deficiency, the fact that we needed garments in the first place because of the shame of the sin, etc. But on the other hand, all of a sudden we have a relationship with a garment, like the mitzvah of talit. The mitzvah of talit is a very, very great mitzvah. It is a mitzvah that is not a particular limb or organ. It is one that covers almost our whole being. And it's interesting to note that the talit is the symbol of all of the mitzvot. Uschartem v'asitem et kol mitzvot Hashem. When you look upon the tzitzit, you will remember its function of tzitzit is to remind us of all of the mitzvot. Isn't it interesting to note that it is an external garment or a symbol of the external light, because that's what it symbolizes, that reminds us of all the mitzvot. Why? Because we can reach higher. We can reach taller. We can reach higher lights. And those higher lights are beyond the vessel, but now we are trying to draw it down to be associated with the vessel or associated with the body. That's part of the more spiritual content of the blessings that we're talking about. So that was just in continuation with last week. Let us now continue to the next blessing. Baruch atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam hanoten leYa'if koach. We bless the Almighty for giving the weary strength. What is the nature of this blessing? You wake up in the morning, you wake up refreshed. Something very interesting and beautiful about sleep is that it gives you rejuvenated strength. Your neshama goes up. It is given the qualities and the strength and the capabilities to be able to deal with the next day, to be able to deal with the issues. I know in my own life there are times that there are certain things that overwhelm me on a particular day, and I went to sleep, and all of a sudden the next day I felt that I can conquer this thing or deal with this thing, deal with this issue simply from going to sleep. How is that? Hashem gives us the strength, both physical but also spiritual as well. But that strength predominantly comes from, as we learned in the Haftarah 2 weeks ago, V'kovei Hashem yahalifu koach. Those who trust in Hashem, yahalifu koach, their strength will be invigorated and exchanged all of the time, will be continually renewed. It is our strength and our bitachon in the Almighty, it is our trust and our faith in the Almighty that endows us with strength, gives us the ability to carry on and to be able to withstand all of the trials and tribulations. The next bracha is a very interesting bracha. Baruch atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam. Blessed you Hashem, King of the universe, Roka haaretz al hamayim, who spreads the earth upon the waters. What does that mean? We know that when the Almighty created heaven and earth, all of the heaven and all of the earth and everything contained with it were all in a manner of confusion. Then each day the Almighty compartmentalized every aspect of creation and made divisions and distinctions. Divisions between earth, heaven and earth, divisions between earth and waters, etc. But in the first instance, the waters covered the whole earth. What does that mean that the water covered the whole earth? And what purpose was that in the water to cover the whole earth? We know that there are two concepts called, in relations to worlds, even within worlds themselves, there are two concepts that a little bit correspond to the two lights that we were talking about, but not totally. One is what's called Alma de Itgalia, the revealed worlds. That is our world, where everything's revealed, we see, we perceive what it is that we see. And then there's Alma de Itkasya, the hidden worlds. They are the heavens and higher planes and spirituality, where we don't see, we don't appreciate, we don't see it with the physical eye, we don't appreciate it, we don't understand it so much. We have to meditate and learn and study to be able to properly appreciate. They are called the hidden worlds. Water is a symbol of the hidden worlds. The reason is because water, you can't see what's in the water. A couple of meters down, you can no longer see it. So water is a symbol of the hidden worlds. And therefore, in the first instance, as it says, Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, it says, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. What does it mean He created the heavens and the earth? Which means that there is an order of descent. First it was the spiritual dimensions, and then the spiritual dimensions gave birth to the physical dimensions. First there was the heavens, then there was earth. So too. First there was the hidden worlds, and then there was the revealed worlds, i.e. the hidden worlds being the heavens, etc. And the revealed worlds is this physical world. Water is a symbol of Alma de Itkasya, the hidden worlds. And therefore, when the Almighty took the Jewish people out of Egypt as a preparation for the giving of the Torah, He split the sea. He made a miracle and He split the sea. And the obvious question is asked by many, why did He split? Why did the Almighty bring the Jewish people, direct them to the sea in the first place, when that was a bit of a detour? A. B, if you're already by the sea, the Egyptians are behind you, mountains are on either side, you can't move, you're trapped. God could have done many things. God could have, if the intention was to get rid of the Egyptians, then the Egyptians could have been gotten rid of in many forms, ways and shapes. But there was a certain divine justice in the fact that the Egyptians drowned the Jews, so they got drowned. As Rashi says, you eat what you cook. You caused it. The Almighty divine retribution was the fact that you did that, so it was brought upon you. So too in regards to many of our actions as well, that we bring about negative energies and consequences to our actions. So that's one dimension why the Almighty brought them to the sea. But the deeper dimension of why the Almighty brought them to the sea, where He could have just floated them above and directed them to any other place. I mean, a miracle is a miracle. There's no shortages of what Hashem could have done. The reason is because the Almighty wanted to reveal to them the hidden worlds. The symbol, the water is a symbol of the hidden worlds. And as a preparation for giving of the Torah, the Almighty wanted to endow them with the level of prophecy, of which prophecy is not something that is given to everyone. It's something that comes from the hidden worlds. It's something that takes great preparation. And to be able to receive the greatest of prophecy, and that is of the giving of the Torah, they needed to prepare for that, to receive a level of prophecy from beforehand, where the Almighty opened the sea, split the sea, and that was a symbolism of them being revealed, the hidden worlds. And so too, when the Almighty created the world was covered with the hidden worlds. Like it says, God created the heavens and the earth. The heavens preceded, the hidden earth preceded the physical revealed worlds. And so too, when the Almighty created the whole world was engulfed in the hidden world, so to speak, the spirituality. And then God made a distinction between the hidden worlds, a division between the hidden worlds and the revealed worlds, the world that we function, as it says, Hashamayim, Shamayim la Hashem, v'ha'aretz natan ibnei Adam. The heavens is God's domain. But earth, God gave us to till the earth, so to speak, to pull out the divine sparks that needs to be pulled out from this physical world, that we don't see the divine, more we see the physical. Our role and our objective is to be able to find, like one digs and finds minerals, golds, diamonds, etc. Our objective is to mine spirituality from this physical world. Having said that, it is specifically in this world where God gave the Torah and God gave His commandments. He didn't give Torah and commandments to the heavens. He didn't give the Torah and commandments to the angels. He gave it to human beings, which means that this is the will of the Almighty. There's something uniquely special about earth, and that is that only in the physical world, where godliness is more concealed, can we relate to the Almighty in a way, in a greater degree than the higher worlds can, because the divine will is revealed over here. One can divide will in many levels. There's external will and there's internal will. For example, when a person goes to work, a person is running to catch the bus. His will, his desire at that moment is to catch the bus, correct? Does the person really want to catch the bus? Is that what he really wants to do? No, he catches the bus because he needs the bus to get to work. All right, now that I'm in work, do I really want to be at work? I much prefer to be with my family, studying, the synagogue, etc. Although not too long. I'd much prefer to be involved in spirituality and be with my family. So why am I at work? I'm at work and I'm working in order to earn money. Do I really want money? Is that what I really want? No, I want what money affords me, and that is the ability to fund my family, to be able to feed them, clothe them, educate them, and do what I need to do. So even in regards to will, there's external will, there's internal will. When a person builds a house, so he brings an architect and all of that stuff, and then you got to pick up the phone and you got to order the bricks. Do I want the bricks? So that's what I want to do now, order bricks from there. And then I got to get the bricklayer and all of that stuff, etc. What do I do all of this? There's a will, external will, and a little bit more internal, a little bit closer to what my true intent is. And the true intent is that I have a home by which I can protect my family, by which I can live, which I can have Shabbat, I can have a home, I can have all of the mitzvot, and the protection that my home affords me, not just a house, a home, a life. A home is the center of one's life, where you eat, where you spend time with your family, where you have guests, and all of the different things that are associated with the home. That's my real will. But to get to that, I've got a whole order of descent that starts from what my will is, and then I have to break it down to all of details to get to that. So too with the Almighty. When the Almighty created the world, now there was an elaborate order of descent of the divine will and the divine light that needed to go through contractions in order to get to the divine will, that what it is that the Almighty wanted. And what is the Almighty wanted? The Almighty wanted a physical world by which godliness will be revealed in the very opposite, so to speak. And we mentioned in its very opposite, because this world is concealment, this world is physical, spirituality is its exact opposite. But the truth is, the divine will rests here in this world. You're not even in a world higher than us, not in even a level higher than us, not in even one heaven higher than us. How much more so not in the greatest of heavens, or in the highest of worlds, not in the world of Yetzirah, not in the world of Riyah, and not in the world of Atzilut, in the world of Asiyah, in this physical, material world. That is the divine will. So the divine will is revealed much more over here. As it says, why is the world called Eretz? Why is the world called Eretz? Asher ratzeta la'asot et ratzon kona. It ran and it willed to fulfill the will of the Almighty, which means that there is a dimension of earth that fulfills the function of God more so than even the highest of heavens, even the highest of worlds, and that is in this world. And therefore, the expression is Roka haaretz al hamayim. The earth is on top of land, which means to say that there is a quality of earth that is even on top of the sea of the hidden worlds. Because it is only in this physical world, what's called the revealed world, the earth, that we can fulfill the will of the Almighty. And as I mentioned before, where do you see the greatness of the Almighty? You see the greatness of the Almighty specifically in earth, in something that conceals godliness or almost lends itself to an independent existence from God Himself. where you see the Almighty in its full power of creating even something that it's opposite, so to speak. You see, it says in one of the Kabbalistic words, Keshem sheyesh lo koach bebilti ba'al gvul, kach yesh lo koach begvul. Just as the Almighty has unlimited power, so too the Almighty created limited power. In other words, it's the very opposite of Ein Sof. One of the words that we can't really describe God, but one of the words that we use because we have no other description is Ein Sof, the unlimited. Yet the Almighty created a finite, limited world. And as I mentioned on many occasions, where do you see the greatness of the sun? Not in the rays of the sun. You see the greatness of the sun in its very opposite when it creates clouds. Clouds also come from the sun. By beating the sun, the rays of the sun beating upon the sea, and all of a sudden there is steam, precipitation, and that rises up, and that creates clouds, and that clouds obscures the very sun that created it. It's almost like saying here, there's an entity here that I'm covering you, but you were created from me. You are me. The clouds are me. And then rain, which is the exact opposite of sun, because sun is dry and rain is wet. So too here, you see, in the earth, in land, specifically you see the greatness of the Almighty, and that's why in this earth the Almighty desired that there should be man that will reveal godliness, and that revelation of godliness will reach even a higher level than what existed beforehand. This is a quality of our function in this physical world, that although the physical world as it stands and as is much lower than the hidden worlds, that's correct. But there is a dimension of it that is much higher. And that's why we say the blessing, Roka ha'aretz al hamayim. The Almighty established and stretched and spread the earth upon the sea. The word al in Hebrew, al, could also mean, al is greater, is higher. Like we had the shiur last week in regards to Abraham Avinu. Abraham Avinu omed alehem. Abraham Avinu was standing above the angels. First when they came, there are 3 angels standing above him. But later on, when he fulfilled the mitzvah of achnasat orhim, of the mitzvah of the mitzvah of Hashem, which is to receive guests, he stood above them. So from here, the Midrash says that Abraham Avinu reached a higher level than what the angels can reach. So too, indeed, the Almighty created the heavens before the earth. And of course the heavens are higher than earth, because there's much more revelation there. There's much more nullification before God. The more than nullification there is, the more perception of godliness there is. The less nullification, the less perception of God. So of course the heavens are higher. But what is higher? My emotions or my intellect? My intellect. What is higher? My will or my intellect? My will, because my will drive and even bypass intellect if necessary. It's interesting to note that if a person really desires to understand something, even though he may not be the smartest of person, he will understand it, because will is much higher than all of the faculties, drives all of them equally, and therefore will force the person to know or to understand something that he needs to understand, or you need to remember. When you really need to remember something, when you have a will to remember something, you will remember that. That's the power of will. And in this world specifically, this is the bottom line, the back stops here, so to speak, in this world. This is the divine will. And therefore, in that respect, we can even reach higher than the heavens. And it makes sense, because why would the Almighty take a soul that is a part of God and create an elaborate system of the order of the light of God to descend and to contract and descend and to contract? What for? To create a physical world that is lower than that? Obviously, there must be a dimension in the physical world that is even higher. Like we mentioned before, that the garments, on the one hand, garments seem to be a symbol of shame, a symbol of something that's negative, but we've turned garments around to turn it into something holy and special, especially garments in the Beit HaMikdash, especially garments on Shabbat, where garments on Shabbat are considered very holy in Kabbalah. Let's move on. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam hamechin mitzadeh gaver. Blessed you Hashem, who prepares the steps of man. Prepares the steps of man. Simply on the simplest of level, we're thanking the Almighty for the ability to walk properly. Take step by step, go where we need to go, etc. But on a deeper level, this is based upon a pasuk where David HaMelech says in Tehillim, מהשם יצא דגבר קוננו ודרכו יחפץ. Hashem directs the steps of man, and his path that he leads us on, yahpatz, we must desire and we must embrace. What does that mean? It means that the Almighty sends us to different places. You think that you took a detour and you went over here because you needed to pick up something to go to work. No, the Almighty sent you there because you needed to go there. My cousin, Alav Shalom, I never forget this. I was very young at the time. I was 10 years old. He was a Kabbalist. He passed away. He's one of the students of one of the 10 main students of Reb Mordechai Sharabi, one of the greatest Kabbalists of the previous generation. And he left a will with 10 of his disciples to continue the yeshiva, and one of them was my cousin, Rabbi Avraham Atiyah, Alav Shalom. And I remember as a child, I was taught from him that every step that we take, when we conduct ourselves in a proper manner, in a way that a Jew must conduct themselves, wearing a kippah and doing whatever it is that they do, and walking in a particular manner, in a manner by which we're thoughtful of Hashem, and conduct ourselves properly, every step is a mitzvah. In other words, we're achieving something. We were sent to that particular place, a particular time, to achieve something. If we don't achieve what we need to achieve, we'll have to come back to that place. So Hashem sends us on different missions to be able to achieve His will, and every step that we take is governed and directed by divine providence. This bracha, we recognize and acknowledge divine providence. That wherever we go, whatever it is that we do, we acknowledge that this is the divine will, and we have a function. Let us not spoil or ruin the objective of being in a particular place, in a particular time. Be aware of the fact that God sends you to different places. There's a famous story, maybe it's not so famous, but it's an interesting story. One of the disciples of the Baal Shem Tov was traveling to a particular land. I think it was in Eretz Israel. And he told him, take a shofar with you. And he said, but Rebbe, I'm not going to be away for Rosh Hashanah. I'll be back by Rosh Hashanah. He says, take a shofar with you. So he took a shofar with him. Sure enough, on the way there or on the way back, whichever, the ship was shipwrecked or damaged, whatever, and he had to stop on a particular island. And until such time that a new ship came, it took a while. And he understood why the Baal Shem Tov told him to take a shofar. So he rented a little shack next to the port, which you'll see when the ship is coming and see which direction this ship is going. Maybe you can, like the C train, and you can get the A train, you can catch it in the B train and change over to the C train and get around like that. Our trains here are not that complex, but in America you got so many things. You can get to particular directions through different ways. If this train is delayed or whatever, you can go that way, maybe you can go quicker. So he rented a little shack, and of course he prayed and he did what he needed to do, and he was a righteous man, a holy Jew, and he studied and he prayed. One time, passing by, happened to be the king of that island, who was walking by, and he hears some melodies coming from a shack. He walks towards it, and he hears the blowing of the shofar, or blowing of a ram. He doesn't know what's going on. And he's peeping through the window, and he sees a person who is in a deep state of meditation. So he understands that this is someone very special, and so he lets him be. But he understood that he's in a state of meditation. He sends a message later on, sends a messenger to pick him up. King wants to interview him, speak to him. The king speaks to him, calls him after the festival. He comes, and the king begins to ask him, who are you, what are you? And he begins to tell him who he is, what he is. He's a Jewish person and all of that stuff. He tells him the basic principles of Judaism. He tells him about Rosh Hashanah, the coronation of the king, what it means that we coronate Hashem as our king of the world, of our lives, etc. And the king was very impressed. He was so impressed that he says, on my expense, I'd like to bring 500 families, Jewish families, to this island. And the man said, look, by divine providence, there are no Jews in this island. Seems that that's the divine will. if it's the divine will that Jewish people be on this island, we'll come in shackles. So let the divine will play its role, whether Jews need to come here or not to come here. If they need to come here, they'll come here. If they don't need to come here, then they don't need to be here. And the king accepted that. And finally a ship came, he went on his merry way, he came back. When he came back, so Baal Shem Tov smiled and he says, I want to tell you something. In this particular island, there are divine sparks that needed to be elevated. And in order to elevate those sparks, Jews had to live there. To be able to do mitzvot, to be able to do Shabbat, to be able to eat from the fish of the place, to be able to eat from the trees of the place, to live there and elevate those divine sparks that fell like divine sparks went in every different place in the world. But since it's very remote, and since it's a harsh environment to live in for Jewish people, I sent you along there. And by your prayers and because of your righteousness, you were able to lift up all of the divine sparks. And this is why I told you to take a shofar, because specifically Rosh Hashanah, being a very holy day, was the time to elevate those divine sparks. And you achieved what you needed to achieve, and indeed you answered the king rightly. There will not be any Jews who will be living in that land because the divine sparks have been released. But really, there should have been Jews living there. And that's why we find that Jews live in different lands and are exiled from one land and go to another land. And it's almost like seemingly we finished. Jews lived in Iran for so many years, in Iraq for thousands of years. In India, it said now there are very few Jews, and Jews moved to different places. It seems that we've accomplished the divine sparks that needed to elevate it and be uplifted in those different countries. We've moved on to different places. Shame, the different synagogues that we've invested in, that we built in, whatever, but we achieved what we needed to achieve. Now we need to move to different countries. Australia has a lot of divine sparks. It's got some beautiful mangoes, and it's got some other interesting things, and we need to elevate the divine spark. So we acknowledge this in the morning. When we wake up in the morning, we say, Hashem, thank you for setting my steps, for directing my steps, for giving me the ability to walk, to achieve what I wanted to do. But on a deeper level, we acknowledge that wherever you're going to lead me, Hashem, I know you're with me, and I'm going to be with you. And I'm not going to let you down. And I'm going to understand that I'm there for a reason. I may not know what the reason is. I'm there for a reason. And I'll take my Tehillim with me, take my Mishnayot with me, take my whatever book it is. If I'm on a train, I'll read a little bit of Mishnah, or whatever it is that I read, and I'm on the thing. Use your time productively, because you're there. You're not there just being on the bus just to get to work. You're there to do something. You're there to elevate sparks. Elevate those sparks. Because it's Hashem Tzaddik Gever Konanu, Hashem set the steps of man. V'darko yahpatz. We have to embrace the path and the direction that God led us. We're Sydney, Australia. Can't say, it's a wonderful country, Sydney, Australia. It's a wonderful country. The freedom that we have here, the people, everything about Australia is wonderful. But it's not the most spiritual place. So for me, it's not ideal spiritually. Education, Jewish education is not ideal here. But this is where Hashem put me right now. I got to make the best of it. And I've got to embrace it, and I've got to be happy with it. There are people who are never happy where they are. They're over here, they're happy, no good, the weather, I wish I was there. Get over there, it's too hot. I didn't realize it was too hot. Over there was better, I should have gone back, let's go back. Never happy with where they are, what they are. I understand that Hashem puts you in a particular place for however long. Nothing wrong with praying to Hashem for changed scenarios. But as long as you're there, it's Hashem's will. Utilize it, do what you need to do, because there are things that we actually need to do. Now we are going to the next blessing.
Can I just ask if non-Jews are also eating the foods of the land?
They also have a function too, absolutely. There's no doubt. Everyone has a function.
Blessing, so are they elevating anything?
Everyone has a function and a role to fulfill in this world. Everyone has a function and a role to fulfill in this world. However, the Jewish people were charged with a particular mission, and the particular mission involves Torah and mitzvot. And Torah and mitzvot is that which ultimately elevates in the most powerful way. Everybody can do hesed, everybody can do kindness, everybody can disseminate spirituality, Jew or Gentile. Maimonides writes about this, that Gentiles also have a portion of the world to come. I think we're possibly, at least from the biggest religions, possibly the only religion from the bigger religions that do not say you have to be a Jew, and only a Jew can commune with God, and only a Jew can pray to God, and only a Jew can be good, etc. We don't believe in that. That's why we don't go out to convert everyone. If someone converts, then tfaddal, that's your role in life. But you have to be able to show and prove. We don't go out to convert the whole world to prove. You have to be Jewish to have a relationship with Hashem. So everybody has a function and a role, but of course the Jewish people were given the Torah. The Torah is not mine. The Torah was given to me. It's a great merit to have it, but that Torah, which comes from Hashem, enables me, coupled with me, enables me to be able to fulfill a great role. I just want to finish off one bracha, or at least start one bracha, and we'll finish off today. The next bracha is Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam She'asa li kol tzorki. Blessed you Hashem, who has provided for all of my needs. Hashem, I'm beginning the day with absolute faith in you. You provided all my needs. This is a very interesting bracha. First of all, the bracha is predominantly recited for shoes, the protection of shoes and what they give us. We don't have the time to explain this. I'm going to explain this next week by the grace of God. But I just want to speak about it in the most literal sense. She'asa li kol tzorki, we're saying in the morning, thank you Hashem for providing all of my needs. Now, the ability to move and function, that's fantastic needs. But what it also refers to is parnasa, our livelihood. We're about to enter the world, and part of a big chunk of our life is earning a livelihood. And it is the divine will that we earn a livelihood, because by involving ourselves in the world, that is how we elevate the world, that is how we release the divine sparks that exist in everything. So we go on the bus, and we go to work, and we're involved in this, and we're involved in that. That is how we refine the world, our world, the world that God created, by involving ourselves in the world. So parnasa, the livelihood, is a very big chunk of our life. And it is the divine will. 6 yamim ta'avod, ve'asita kol melachtecha. 6 days a week you shall work, and you shall do all of your work. Shabbat is a day that is totally different. Totally different plane. Because on Shabbat you don't need to work to elevate the world. The world elevates itself. So you don't need to interact intimately with the world to elevate it like you do on the weekday. So earning a livelihood is an important function of what we need to do. So we thank Hashem for preparing our needs. Now, the interesting thing about this bracha is it's in past tense. She'asa li kol tzorki. That made for me all my needs, which means before I even woke up, before I even got to work, my parnasa is already there. My livelihood has already been prepared for Hashem. It's a wonderful thing. And when you start your day with that faith and with that understanding, you won't be greedy, you won't be jealous, you won't lie, you won't steal, you'll be protected, you'll protect yourself in functioning in a proper manner. You will share, etc., because what you have is what Hashem has given you, is already prepared for you. That's A. B, you will not invest your whole being and your whole essence in your livelihood. You will understand that all you need to do is to create a vessel for the divine blessing. I don't have to create water. The Almighty created water. He made water. All I need to do is bring a cup, or dig a well, or create a trench to receive a dam to receive the water that comes from heaven, from the snow, whatever the case may be. The water is there for me. All I need to do is to do the minimal, the basics. I need to, what is many times referred to, I need to create a kli, a vessel, to receive the divine blessing. Those people who invest their whole being, their whole essence in earning a livelihood are making a big mistake. Because what they're doing is they're turning that which is secondary in their lives, which is only a functionary role, to be able to then live your lives and do what you need to do in your lives. Those invest their whole lives in that are making a grave mistake. And it's unnecessary, because of course you have to go to work, but your needs have been already provided for you. All you need to do is get out there and get it. And to do it in a kosher way. If you think you're going to get it in a non-kosher way, your needs are provided. What are you looking in the wrong way? It's like I'm telling you that you want to drink some water, it's over here on the right. You go to the left. What are you doing on the left? It's not there. All you're doing is tiring yourself. So when you go about earning your livelihood in the wrong manner, all you're doing is expending effort for no reason. So when the Almighty says that your livelihood has to be earned in a kosher way, without lying, without stealing, without this, without that, and you go and you do these things contrary to the will of the Almighty, or you invest your whole being and your whole life and you think more about it, and how do I earn more, and how do I do this, and how do I do that? There has to be a point in time where you say, enough, that's it, stop. Get on with your life. Get on with your family. Don't neglect your family. Don't neglect your health. Don't neglect your soul. Don't neglect your spirituality. And this we recognize by saying, Sha'asa li kol tzorki. He made already my needs. My needs are already there. Let us just go out and do what we need to do and not invest our whole lives in it. One time there was a person who had a factory of galoshin. You know what galoshin is? Galoshin is the things that you wear in weather. Huh?
Galoshes.
Galoshes? Thank you. Galoshes. It's an interesting word. Galoshes you wear on top of your shoes in order to, first of all, to protect your shoes that they don't get wet and snow and you don't slip, whatever. I remember in New York, I had a pair because I learned the hard way. I slipped and fell quite a few times. And then when they get all soggy and you walk into the thing, they're wet. So they're wet the whole day. They're not going to dry very quickly. So all that or boots. So you put it on top. One time a person had a factory of galoshes. And he had a difficulty, which he came to ask advice from his rabbi. And the rabbi says to him like this, he says, I heard of people putting their shoes in the galoshes, but I haven't heard someone putting his head in the galoshes. And all of a sudden, he realized that he was investing his whole essence, his whole being. We don't need to invest our whole essence and our whole being. We need to do what we need to do, and then leave the rest to Hashem. Because our parnassah has already been there for us, has already been decided for us, has already been prepared for us. Of course we have to put in the effort. The effort is part and parcel of the divine will that we elevate the world. But the divine will is not that we sell our soul to earning a livelihood. As it says, Yagia kapecha kitochal. The efforts of your hand you shall eat. Ashrecha v'tov lach. Ashrecha ba'olam hazeh v'tov lach la'olam haba. Praiseworthy is such a person who eats by the efforts, the toil of his hands. What does it mean, the toil of his hands? What, an accountant, he eats the toil of his hands? He uses his brain. A lawyer uses his brain. It means to say that just the hands are the most external part of us. So too, earning a livelihood should only expend the most external dimension of us, not the internal, not the soul, not every aspect of us, that we lose our whole identity, our whole being. Ashrecha, praiseworthy is such a person. V'tovlach, praiseworthy in this world. Tovlach, good for you in the world to come. You haven't lost your world to come. You haven't lost this world either, because you're able to remain focused. So that's in the first instance. Next week, Bezrat Hashem, we're going to speak on a deeper dimension of what it means, and why is this associated with shoes, and why is this called tzorki. That will be next week.